conference was last year in Brighton, again in the UK. And it was a big challenge for us because we had never organized a conference before. We were given 9 months to do it when professionals say you need at least 12 months. And we had no idea, well, not no idea, but we had quite a few challenges to face. We did our best, and we still managed to get almost 300 delegates, 128 of them being UK practitioners, keeping in mind that that year there were 3 lymphedema conferences in the UK. So that was already quite a good thing for us. But more importantly, we could see that international delegates started to understand and to come and to be interested. And we had 164 delegates from 23 countries. We also launched 4 publications. The palliative document, which is very interesting document for the patients at the end of life. The children document, the lymphedema framework, the way forward. And for the UK, the LSN document, which was the patient's document. In 2011, we had our 3rd conference in Toronto, and we were quite pleased to have 160 delegates from more than 20 countries. In total, 389 delegates and 155 Canadian practitioners. Canada is far away for everyone. Even for Canadians, I mean, the ones coming from the West had longer flights than some coming from Europe. So but we were able to show, in all modesty, that with more time we could organize a conference. And when Brighton was not always maybe well organized, I think Toronto was quite all right. But if we also decided that ILF was, by definition, an international organization, and we needed to move away from just having UK directors, because if you looked at the list of directors we had only UK people. So in 2011, we will have 5 new directors. Neil Pillar, I think doesn't need to be introduced. Isabelle Carré from France, Anna Kennedy from Canada, Susan Norgard from Denmark, and Hiromi Sanada from Japan. It's just the first step of a longer strategy, which will mean the ILF will have a series of international directors. The ILF mission is quite straightforward. Is to improve the management of lymphedema and related disorders worldwide. That includes developed countries, developing countries. It includes, obviously, it is lymphedema, but also lipedema, all kind of related disease worldwide. If you go on our website, you will see our core values, which are here. But basically, it's that what we do it for patients, because that's there's no point doing something which is not for patients. At the end of the day, you are the people who need what we are doing. It's important that we all work together. So when we say that all stakeholders should be involved, we mean all stakeholders, the practitioners, the researchers, the practitioners, the patients, and industry. And anyone involved in the chain of management of lymphedema, that you can't just change it and then that's perfect. It's we need to make sure that we are in a never-ending process, that we can always look at improving more and more, and that ongoing research should always be aimed at being implemented onto the field, into the practice. There's no point developing a perfect tool to cure lymphedema if you don't make it available to the patients on the field. And we also said clearly, and it's in our core values, that we believe that we have to work internationally. Fortunately, somehow, lymphedema is still what we call an orphan disease, or that doesn't affect well, millions of people. That contradicts what Professor Ryan just said. But it's still not a mainstream disease, and it's important that we work together to learn from each other and on an international basis. Our priorities are very, very clear. Research. We need some research. We need to, and more than research, it's also practice evaluation. What do we do? And what can be done to improve? Data, because without data, we can't measure what we are doing. And we need some data. If you want to prove to the Swedish healthcare authorities that they are going to save money, you need some data to put on the table. You can't just say, well, in theory it will work. You need data. And collecting data is one of the top priorities of ILEF, because then it will make everybody's job much easier. Implementation of best practice. I still need to find someone who will explain me why what works in India wouldn't work in Sweden, or what works in Germany doesn't work in the States, or whatever. So if it works somewhere for a patient, why wouldn't it work somewhere for another one? So let's compare the practice on the same basis. And last but not least, the implementation of national lymphedema frameworks, because we are the umbrella organization, but we need implementation of projects into each country so that the management for the patient will be improved in each country. What is unique about ILEF? First of all, I believe, is our capacity to bring together key opinion leaders and highly dedicated people from developed and developing countries. And the best way to do that is when you see who is attending our conference. That's where we can prove what we are saying. Second thing is that we want to be an interface between all lymphedema stakeholders. And without entering into the politics here, this meeting here is a clear example that we believe that the patients, the practitioners, researchers, and industry should work together and should share some kind of objectives and vision. Our capacity to deliver, there are some national frameworks already started in the US, in Canada, and Japan, and very soon we will add to this list Australia. Belgium apparently is working on it quite heavily, Denmark, France, and quite a few other countries. So these things are happening. We also are able to put up an international conference every year and have our own publications. And what is also unique is that we work in real partnership with industry, and that is maybe what is the most important, because my background is from industry, and we used to be asked for some money. That's no problem. But what did we have in exchange? Very often we had very little. With the ILEF and the national frameworks is that we are using the industry. Yes, we are asking them for some money, obviously, but there is also knowledge, there is expertise within industry. And it's only by collaborating with them that we will learn from them and they will learn from us. The key illustration for me is before 2002, lymphedema arm sleeves available in the UK, you had 4 models. 3 brands, and 1 brand had 2 models. That was it. If you go now to the UK, you will have a choice, just arm sleeve, I'm not talking lower limb, you will have probably a choice between 15 or 20 different arm sleeves. Patient's choice. You have colors, you have all kinds of textures of yarns being used for the arm sleeve. That's to the benefits of the patient, and that's what companies have learned by working with the patients and the practitioner. Now, it's your turn to work. The question is, I'm going to show you 3 pictures, and you need to find what these 3 pictures have in common. Maybe you might need a little bit of help. This is the statue of Aesop, a Greek philosopher who lived 564 before Christ. This is the Missouri state flag in the US. And the winners of the Best Poster Award in 2011 ILEF conference. Any idea? You're not allowed to answer, Margareta, because you know the answer. Well, Aesop said something which is written here in the middle of this flag here, and that these 2 ladies and ILEF share in common. It's a saying that goes, united we stand, divided we fall. Sorry, I can't pronounce it, but it should be the right...
Yes. Förenade vi stå, delade vi fall.
I'll practice on that. Somehow, this is what we see as the link or bringing